It empowers you, and it empowers your brain to rewire itself for better. These are the 10 keys that help me to be bipolar episode free for a decade. And so I'm so grateful for this. So the sunny day mentality, controlling the weather upstairs, that's what we want to do. We want to learn to do that. How do we do that? We do that through what I use an acronym. The acronym is DISFILE. So these are intuitive keys, and the DISFILE stands for desire, spirit, ability, awareness, feelings, imagery, authority, action, lifestyle, and love. These 10 keys make up the sunny day mentality, which ultimately, all in all, will help your brain to rewire to overcome mood disorder like bipolar depression, okay? So what we find is that these intuitive keys, these things are already a part of us. And so these show or reveal or create these intuitive responses, these intuitive traits. But no matter what, we operate in these same traits. So whether you're healthy or whether you have ailment, it just depends on what you are doing in the midst of having these traits. So if you have desire and you're mentally ill, or you're suffering from depression, what you're naturally going to want to do, you're going to want to escape. Now, we're going to talk about what you end up doing, because then at this point, this is where you have the choice of what to do. This is where you gain the awareness. So when you realize you want to escape, some people decide, well, I'm going to self-harm. I'm feeling so bad, I'm suffering so much, or I'm just going to move, I'm going to go to an addiction, or I'm going to go to sex, or I'm going to look for validation from people. I'm going to go online and start surfing the web. Whatever that escape is, oftentimes when we have a mental ailment, we actually let that take us into a darker pocket of reality, right? So we end up in a worse situation out of trying to escape when it goes negative, when our response is negative or counterproductive. So then we have the spirit. Well, what voice do you hear out of your spirit? What voice is in your head? What are you being told to do? Because of that voice, you could either hear a positive voice or a negative voice. Which one are you actually adhering to? Which one are you choosing to listen to? Ability. You're going to look at ability and you're going to look at drive. You're going to realize, oh, I have the ability to change, right? That intuitive trait, we all have a drive within us. That drive is either going to be for something that's counterproductive, or it's going to be something that's going to get us ahead in life. You have a choice here. So then that drive is going to take you somewhere. We have awareness. Once we gain awareness of our mental health nature, of our ailments, of how we're behaving, the things that we're saying, then we're going to have a focus on that, right? How do we focus? Because we're either focusing too much on the negative voice, the negative drive, that negative desire to escape. We're having a focus, but what are we applying that focus to? Okay, so then feelings. We all have these feelings that rush through our bodies that turn into these moods. So then where do these feelings take us? We are going to have thoughts, we're going to have moods, and we're going to have words. But are those going to be counterproductive? Are they going to be uplifting? Are they going to be healing thoughts? Are these thoughts going to be thoughts that take you further in life? Or are they going to cycle into this negative algorithm that keeps you in a depression or takes you to a negative focus, a negative drive, listening to a negative voice and responding with a negative way to escape? Vision. We all have imagery. We intuitively imagine in our minds. That's all our thoughts are made up of. That's why the feelings come with those things, because we're having an image, either one that is negative, productive, making us feel good, helping us to move forward and strive in life, or our imagery is countering a positive vision, right? The vision that we have. Do we have a plan? Do we have a plan for our day? Do we have a plan for our lives? Are we actually operating? The Bible says to write the vision down and make it plain so that someone can run along with it, right? So are other people included in this? All kinds of things. All of that will require thoughts, moods, words, focus, drive, the voice that you listen to each day when you wake up. And if you want to escape that or confront that. So then authority. You are the sole authority of your life, of your mind. And therefore, because you are the authority, this is intuitive, right? But what happens is that we become a certain way, and then we end up not operating in our authority. Therefore, we have poor management, and then we get the response. This is our choice. This is at the point of choice. We're aware that I am the only one that can do something. Management. What can I do to manage my life better? But then we'll get to this next column in a second, because all of these within this next column, these next two columns are going to be the ones that reveal what kind of life results we're going to get. But we also have this intuitive key to take action. Whether that action is to sit and do nothing and to feel, however we feel and sit in our emotions and to execute in these other ways, or the action is going to be for our good. Either way, it's a behavior, and a behavior becomes a habit. So in this, we are going to also know which direction we're going to go. This is a choice. This line, this column is letting you know you have choices. Lifestyle is who you're around, what you're doing for a living, the people that you choose to pour into, and the people who you let pour into you. This is your lifestyle. It's what you eat. It's what you drink. It's what you're watching. It's literally the supplements you take. It's if you're exercising. It's how you're breathing even. It's how you choose to even show up and how you're breathing each day within your body, okay? Some might say that that's action, how you choose to breathe. Either way, it fits in here, okay? Love, of course. How are you treating yourself? Do you treat yourself the way that you would demand someone else treat you? The way that you feel like your parents should have treated you? There's a thing called reparenting, where the parents did not show up or could not show up, or they could not be there for whatever reasons. And therefore, we have to realize that what we would have learned from our parents is what we need to know how to do for ourselves. And therefore, treatment of yourself, it includes everything from, whether or not you're being patient and kind to yourself mentally, emotionally, spiritually. So that takes us to traumatizing responses. When you have a mental ailment, what ends up happening is that we typically operate in a traumatizing response. And when I say a traumatizing response, what I mean is specifically that our responses are not merely what brings us to doing these things. It could have been some trauma that we grew up in. It could have been some mindsets that we were raised around that have us thinking in a negative way, or preconceived notions. Oh, I was born this way because it's in my genes. My daddy, my mama was like this. We already have responses, but these things actually traumatize us further and keep us in a cycle of trauma instead of healing. And so that alone can create a whole other impact of issues in our mental health, okay? So if you're trying to escape, now remember, these are the two intuitive traits, right? These are the things that we're realizing, oh, this is just my makeup, right? This is how I am, but you get to actually fill in the blanks with where, or the direction rather, you get to drive these into a certain direction that will give you end results in your life that you will either be proud of or ashamed of, in which we don't promote shame around here. So it just gives us an opportunity to be healthier, right? It gives us the opportunity to feel better about ourselves. And so if you want to escape, typically you might go to addictions, or you might be paralyzed in your mindset of a negative mindset, or you might go to, just everything that I mentioned earlier, things that will not actually ultimately help you to have a productive life, but more so it'll cause more issues. Your issues, your problems might stack up on you. So then spirit, voice, what voice are you listening to? Are you listening to the negative and counterproductive voice? Are you listening to a voice that tells you, oh yeah, you ain't nothing. Yeah, you're not good enough. You're not smart enough. You're not talented and gifted enough. You weren't blessed with that kind of life. You don't need to do that today. You might as well just lay there because you're not going to get nothing else accomplished. What voice are you listening to? Now, you might as well do that because your life already blah, blah, blah. This is the stuff I used to tell myself. You might as well lay down with him. You might as well lay down with her. It's not like she really thinks, who would want to marry you, right? Who would actually want you for who you are. So you have a lot of people that actually, move through life like this. And typically this is very common, very typical with depression or even in mania, because what can happen is that if we're listening to this negative voice and we're thinking less of ourselves, then what can happen is that we go further into the mania because we lack a boundary, we lack a standard, we lack the awareness that we're truly hurting, or that we're really looking for an escape, or we're looking for something to fulfill us and validate us. And so that can take us higher into the mania if you're dealing with bipolar depression like I dealt with. So drive, unmotivated, and negative, right? So you're just not going to have a drive. You'll be at a standstill. You'll be stagnant, So this is a traumatizing response. It's like the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. It can actually keep you in a state where you're going to freeze because you're afraid to be motivated. You're afraid to have drive, or you're unsure and confused. You have clouded thinking to where you cannot organize your day, and therefore you just stay frozen. You do nothing. You procrastinate, you remain stagnant in your life, and you wonder why. So then you have, your focus goes negative. It's like, okay, you only notice the bad things that happen in your life instead of noticing the things that are actually a true blessing and looking for opportunities to be grateful. And you don't have to look far from that, but we do have to teach and train our brains to focus more on the positive than the negative. And I'm not talking about be this, positive vibes type of person where you're not being realistic. But no, it's to a point where you are recognizing, I see something good here and I'm grateful for this. The little things. I'm grateful for the air in my body. I'm grateful for, just being able to step out the house. I'm grateful for being able to wake up and see light through my blinds. Things like that are so vital when you're in a dark space, especially. So your thoughts, moods, words, if those are negative, then obviously that is part of your self-culture. You are literally training yourself to hate yourself. You are training yourself to abuse yourself. Are you mentally abusing yourself with your thoughts, your moods, your words? And then, especially if it's a mood, because at that point, everybody around you is likely feeling it too. And you're probably gonna be the party pooper. And I know people say, I don't want to call so-and-so or go over to so-and-so's because I know that they're just not gonna, they're not gonna want me around. I don't want to bring this energy around them. Well, that's good, but you can do something about that energy. You can shake that energy. You really, really can. A lot of people don't realize it. But as you become more aware of this, honey, I'm telling you, you're just gonna be unstoppable with the level of healing that you'll be able to bring to yourself. So your vision, when it comes to vision, are you always thinking the worst case scenario? Well, nothing good happens to me anyway. Or I'm just waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is going too well. Something bad gonna happen. I mean, you're thinking the worst case scenario, okay? And again, you notice a lot of this is negative, negative, negative. A negative, when you look at the word negative, it means a deficit. It means a deficit. That means that you are removing good from yourself. Why would you do that to yourself? Why would anyone want to do that to themselves? It doesn't make sense. It actually seems insane. And this is how we end up operating in disorder. And that's why they'll call it a disorder, because there's so much disorder going on in here that we haven't caught it. So speaking of which, when it comes to management, our authority in managing things, when it comes to managing our brains, we have to understand that we have a chaotic brain when we're suffering from disorder, and we have that 2-year-old. I call it the 2-year-old that's just running around, and you have to put that 2-year-old in order. You have to put that 2-year-old in check. You have to prepare that 2-year-old for certain trips. If you're going to go, or I'll even say an infant, if you're going to go on a road trip, it's certain things that you have to prepare that child for. If they want to read a tablet, or if they need changed diapers, you got to have all of that stuff prepared for the trip. And that's how your brain is. Before you go about your day, are you preparing your mind? Are you eating right? It's a variety of things, including these things here, how your responses will be to your intuitive keys and traits, okay? So you have to understand that at this point, when a traumatizing response, when you have poor management, passive management of your brain, that's brain over mind. But mind is a mindfulness to be able to manage what's going on in your brain, to be aware of what's going on at all times in your brain, at least for most times. I mean, when you sleep, some people you're even aware sometimes through your dreams, which is pretty awesome. And then, of course, when it comes to your actions, your behaviors, oftentimes you create more traumatizing responses through a culmination of counterproductive beliefs and skewed perspective. Okay, so your perspective would be, from all of the other traumatizing things in your past, which makes you look for confirmation bias that, hey, I knew that this wasn't going to go right. I knew that that wasn't for me. I knew that that person wasn't good. So we have to be careful of this, because then when we're looking for things to be right, when we're looking for things to hurt us, to trying to expect that means that typically our brain in the ailment is still unaware of what good can happen. We're not focused on the good things that can occur and how to put up boundaries so that we are not so harmed, okay? And so then when it comes to our living, we're passively living. So we're not being productive. We're not being aggressive or like I like to say, you're not living to live. You're just kind of living in a space of the bare minimum, as opposed to really going out and taking life, by the handles. And so you live more passively, which allows all of this stuff to just reign free. All of the stuff that I've mentioned and that I will continue to mention, it will just reign free in your brain. In your brain, that's the algorithm of it. Nothing is changing. That's just the common algorithm of your mind. And so then you turn right around and you say, oh, I'm just so tired of thinking like this. Did you ever think to say, I can stop this? It's like a runaway train if you don't train your brain. So then the treatment of yourself, are you being impatient with yourself? Are you being unkind to yourself? Because all of these things lead to your results. Treatment of yourself, the Bible talks about how, love others as you love yourself. Well, have you paid attention to whether or not you truly love yourself? Do you love the skin you're in? Do you love the way you think? Do you love the way you feel? Do you love the direction that your life is going in? Do you love these things? Because all of these things make a profound difference of how you are perceiving all of that going into it. So what I want to reveal is, how do you counteract the traumatizing responses? You've been in a cycle of traumatizing responses, so then how do you counteract these things, right? It's through healing responses. Right? It's through healing responses. And with these healing responses, what are we going to do? Instead of addictions and being paralyzed in whatever the state you're in, instead of escaping to whatever you normally escape to that does not help your mental health, what you're going to end up doing, you're going to escape. You're going to meet the feeling and the desire to escape with confrontation. You're going to confront how you feel positively, gently, lovingly, with respect to yourself, with honor to yourself. You are going to confront all of these other things that you're going to constantly confront all the rest of these things, in our intuitive traits that we've talked about. Okay, when it comes to the voice, we're going to listen to what's productive. Okay, good. We're going to listen to what's productive. And so what we'll do from there is that we'll be able to understand that what is productive is, if it's not productive here, that voice, we're not even going to worry about the rest of this. This right here, we can't do the traumatizing responses, because the traumatizing responses won't serve us. Okay? So then when it comes to our drive, we're always looking to be motivated and inspired. The drive, we want to be motivated and inspired. And so if there's anything that is eating away, creating a deficit from being motivated and inspired, we're going to be listening to videos that's motivational. We're going to be listening to people reading books. We're going to be taking advice. We're going to be listening for healthy critiques. We're going to be looking for what we're thinking, what we're saying. We're going to always be looking to level up and not be stuck in an unmotivated practice, okay? Focusing, we're gonna focus on the opportunities that we have for better health. We're gonna focus on, you know what, will this make me feel worse if I eat or drink this, or will this make me feel better? Okay, and it's kind of tricky when it comes to drugs and alcohol because temporarily somebody might feel better, but in the long run, it can actually do harm to your body, which will make you feel ultimately worse. And it also makes us look worse if we do too much, right? But then you go to your thoughts, moods, and words, which all of these other previous ones also impact. So our thoughts, moods, and words, we are looking to set boundaries. We are looking to be watchful, but not in a traumatizing way, in a very healthy, loving way. We are looking to be intentional with ourselves. We're looking to be productive and controlled in our thinking. Yes, the thoughts will roll in, but then what do you do when the thoughts roll in? Well, then that's when you come right up here and you confront them. You challenge them. You challenge those thoughts. You're listening to what those thoughts are telling you, because then you're going to notice how they're making you feel, right? So we're going to then understand that our thoughts, do they serve our vision? And our vision obviously must be empowering, must be healthy, and must seek to keep us in a space that keeps us feeling purposeful, right? And so when it comes to that, then we understand we have to have good management. We have to have a good management system in order for us to truly find our, see our vision through, So when it comes to management, it's not going to be chaotic. We're not going to be passive in our mindset, right? We're not going to just let these thoughts have their way and the feelings have their way. We're not going to do that. We are actually going to be mind over brain, which in other words means we're going to be conscious of all of these other things on a regular basis. And believe it or not, it might seem tiring, but the brain actually connects to these things fairly easily because you're already operating in this stuff. You're just switching you're flipping the switch to the other side, okay? You're flipping it to the healing responses instead of just not resting, but just submitting constantly to the traumatizing responses. So then from your management, you're gonna take on new behaviors. It's gonna produce different behaviors. So your behaviors are now gonna be a culmination of your productive beliefs and your productive perceptions, okay? Your self-serving perceptions that serve you in a way that help you to meet your goals and to feel more positive and feel better about yourself. Okay, so then when it comes to the living, you won't be living passively. You're going to be responsible, intentional. You're going to be aggressive with your living and how you live each day. And I don't mean angry, but I do mean aggressive in the sense of you're going to be that go-getter for yourself. You are your first business. You are your first matter of business. You're going to be accountable to how you're feeling. You are accountable for that, for what you do, for where you're headed. And of course, then when it comes to your treatment of self, you're going to be patient and kind, because this is a process and you want to be very graceful with yourself. You want to be kind to yourself, okay? And so when it comes to being patient and kind with yourself, you have to be okay with making mistakes. You have to be okay with things not going perfectly every day, externally and internally. But the blessing is that because you're creating the awareness, you're going to be able to catch these things, which ultimately empowers you. It empowers you, and it empowers your brain to rewire itself for better mental health. And this is one of the things, actually, not one, these are the 10 keys that help me to be bipolar episode free for a decade. And so I'm so grateful for this. I am not saying that I am probably, I like to say that I'm forever free from bipolar disorder, but I also know that it would take me having to rewire my brain back to the traumatizing responses. And it's very easy to get into this, but it's also very easy now to operate in this, because now my brain is more, it has more of the proclivity to want to do what's going to help me feel good, to help me feel enlightened, to help me feel inspired. I'm able to inspire myself with the 10 keys of the sunny day mentality. So this file. Yes, this file. File this away. File this away in your mind. File in your heart. Desire, spirit, ability, awareness, feelings, imagery, authority, action, lifestyle, and love, because these are the keys that all you have to do is just be aware of these, because you already operate in them. And I guarantee you, the more you begin to feed this part of yourself, this part of awareness of yourself, the easier it'll be every day to get up and to have more success over your mental ailment, over your moods, over your emotional isms. You'll be able to control yourself and your life and get the results that you desire.